On the 6th of October, Hell Let Loose released a major update, and it's been the first major update in quite some time. Yet with the game sitting at mixed reviews on Steam and a fan base that are kind of in outrage at the lack of polish over the last updates, is it too late to bring Hell Let Loose into the mainstream now? Or is this game still chugging along, building up its fan base as time goes on? Today I'm going to deep dive into exactly where the game is at this point as we near the end of 2025, moving on into the next season. I mean, as of recording it today, there have been some huge major outages across the whole of the US, which has actively hurt Hell Let Loose. In fact, Amazon Web Services means that players are not able to access the game in general. It's absolutely chaos, but that's kind of against Hell Let Loose, and not exactly their fault that half the US is on fire. But let's actually go and delve into Update 18 and what we really received. Of course, it came across all platforms, and it's nice that they're doing console and PC stuff in parity. This was always a promise when Team 17 took over Hell Let Loose that they would try and update everything in parity, and it seems like they're doing that right now. You see, the game has not exactly ever been on live support, but with some pretty big missteps like Update 14 when we got the British forces, this launched with some major bugs, and of course the LLA main map, which just didn't particularly work, and it meant that it kind of got cancelled out of the rotation. Nobody wanted to play it, and same with maps like Driel, that kind of got taken out of the rotation pretty fast, but we've seen them coming back in as fixes have been made, and they have actually tried and shift away from the British forces. Now it's been a bit more patched, but we also had things like weird netcode, or the balance felt a little bit off as bigger updates came in, and this was just kind of the issues with adding in more content, but adding in more content without that patience and without that polish that I think a lot of people wanted to see. Not just this, but paid cosmetic DLCs coming in, adding in new uniforms that you had to pay for. Felt like people were getting closed off from a lot of content because they wouldn't pay for it, and you know, that alongside technical issues kind of just adds fuel to the fire. The game really actually came pretty close to losing its core player base, but somehow it seems to have shifted things back. The dev posted the roadmap of early 2024 acknowledging these issues and saying, look, we've messed up, we're trying to fix these. Our focus going forward is not just on content. Actually, we're going to pull back from content to make sure that we get the polish that everything needs. And that came with the US Airborne rework, the El Alamein map fixes, of course, the British faction map, Update 15, adding in anti-cheat improvements and major performance fixes, and of course, revamping the lighting for Unreal Engine 5. Then with Update 16, we got an armor overhaul, garrison and OP changes, and of course, updated audio and artillery effects, all really kind of working towards something new, and a sneak peek at potentially new factions in the future in 2026. And of course, the most recent announcement, Hell Let Loose Vietnam. Same engine being Unreal Engine 5, but a new setting, going into a setting that hasn't really been explored by many hardcore FPS games, or at least not recently, with more of a focus on helicopters and asymmetric warfare. The developers have said, and this was always going to be a worry, that it's not going to affect Hell Let Loose World War II. That game development should be going on as usual, but the only way we can actually tell, well, really, is by seeing some proof of it. And we have seen that proof with the Update 18 that has most recently come out. Stalingrad has had a map refresh. They've said themselves, after reviewing the map and filtering through player reports and community posts, the most contentious problems of the map were identified. And yes, there were some horrific problems with Stalingrad. Don't get me wrong, it was pretty cool, but yeah, balance was not its strongest suit. As soon as you take the railway yard, it was pretty much game over from that point. Trying to take it back was almost impossible, since all you could do was crawl between train carts and it would be a sniper's heaven. I mean, like the real Stalingrad, sure, but we're trying to actually make this playable for a modern first-person shooter. What they've done, though, is adjusted player spawns, balancing the headquarters, also adjusted the scale and placement of the capture point hard caps, and of course updated the consistency of buildable behavior when trying to place objects inside buildings. And they, with this, released an overview trailer so we can see exactly what the refreshes will change. One of the biggest changes they actually put in was that carriage depot. You know, the part that once it gets taken, it was almost game over because of the lack of cover, really. Well, now, plenty more carriages, and the look has completely changed as well. They're more solid objects, better cover to hide behind, and in fact, I think this is an incredible change. You can just see the difference between the before and after, exactly what they've done with it. And it's great. I mean, realistically, in the actual battle, this train yard itself was swapped over 14 times, which kind of proves the point of this is the centerpiece, and getting it right really does work. But you have to find that balance between, well, realism, but also it being a game itself. There's been a huge overhaul to the way that the game actually runs on this map. It was one of the worst performing maps in terms of frame rate just because of, well, it just didn't seem well optimized. And what they've done is not only have increased the performance, but also just put more stuff in the map, which sounds counterintuitive, but I guess just the way that it's been implemented and the way that they've got used to the new engine now on Unreal Engine 5 as well, so that does help a little bit. But the line of sights are much better for players to actually fight back and forth. Specifically, we're kind of talking about and looking at Pavlov's house, which is a huge center point of this map as well, sniping from the windows and one of the main capture points. There's now more barbed wire, more tank tracks, of course more trenches in order to get it, so attacking these points is going to be a lot easier and a lot harder to defend, which is nice. I mean, snipers are still going to be effective as they usually are if you have someone fairly competent, but they're not going to be an absolute powerhouse that can wipe off an entire enemy team themselves. Now, of course, there are plenty more updates coming in with Stalingrad that have been changed, but they've done a whole 2-hour live stream addressing a lot of this stuff and, of course, playing it. And this is the kind of stuff that we really, really like to see. I mean, talk about growing a player base, being that transparent and the developers actually just showing it off in gameplay. But not just that. I mean, who has a patch trailer for the Stalingrad refresh with almost 1 million views in less than 2 weeks? That shows, well, if anything, that this community is still pretty much as strong as it's ever been, in fact growing and growing every day. And we can also log on to the concurrent players for Hell Let Loose, and it does show a similar story. As each update comes out, the player base just keeps coming back time and time again. It's so steady. At 24-hour peaks, you have over 6,000 players, and that's only on PC, Steam as well. So I think over consoles, you can have maybe 15,000 concurrent players at any point in time. You can sort of look at the max, and it's still peaking. January had a highest ever peak of 21,000 players as well. Of course, coming into free weekends, there's other bits and pieces, peaks and troughs as well, but it seems like this is as strong as the game has ever been, and I think this has kind of been shown through the way that the developers have come apart. Now, of course, in Update 18, it was mostly about Stalingrad and its rework, but it wasn't the only thing that they did. They added in the skirmish modes for Stalingrad, and they are still committing to trying and hoping that this mode, this game mode, just becomes something a bit more used. I'm going to be honest, I particularly don't like the skirmish mode. It just doesn't feel like Hell Let Loose to me, yet they have added in a larger version of the skirmish mode as well with 100 players, so it's kind of moving towards it, but it just feels a lot more like the other kind of game modes. And then we bring in tank balancing. Pretty much every tank in this game has been balanced as well, so the way that tanks react to being hit, and of course how you can repair them. One very unique, I guess, and new feature that I didn't expect to be in there was salvaging wreckages. It allows infantry to remove vehicle wreckage from the map, so if a tank has been destroyed, normally it will just lie there, and it can be used as cover, but using a hammer, you can actually interact it. The wreckage is cleared and a portion of the fuel is returned to the commander, sort of getting more resources back so you can bring in more tanks and that sort of stuff. Armor cosmetics are now available alongside the soldier customization systems as well. Of course, a lot of this is purchasable. And all in all, the commander ability has now got some new extra stuff. They can call in artillery strikes, allowing them to place up to 3 artillery clusters on the battlefield at the expense of munitions, and these things are absolutely brutal. Probably not as effective really as bombing runs, but I doubt they're even going to cost close to as much, so I guess that's kind of understandable. And now invite-only locked units, so you can block requests from others to join and just invite the people you want to, which is so useful because I hate strangers. I absolutely despise strangers. Now let's talk about some of the dynamic weather updates as well. El Alamein has got some dynamic sandstorms that I've experienced myself. They are absolutely awesome. In other words, as soon as the sandstorm comes in, you can't see anything. The same with Rial, but because it's in Europe, it's of course a rainstorm. Kind of understandable. Yet after all that, why then is Hell Let Loose still sitting at mixed reviews on Steam? What is the issue? Well, a lot of the more recent stuff seems to be trying to actually join servers, changing network settings, restarting, and it's just not coming up. Loads of network issues with people actually trying to get in on it. I mean, one of these reviews says, I love this game, but the most recent update is currently unplayable with servers constantly crashing before the games, and this seems to be a constant thing time and time again. This update, Update 18, has caused quite a bit of chaos. Despite it adding in quite a lot of stuff and being a pretty major update, boy oh boy, there's a lot of fixing that has to be done with it. But you know, Hell Let Loose are trying to do the best they can, even outside of the whole of the internet being set on fire recently. server-side fixes, and of course client-side fixes, trying to get things running and being as stable as possible. I think really it's not as big as a deal as many are making out. We've got plenty of new content and plenty of fixes that are making these maps better and way more playable, and the fact that they are being fixed, and we've seen, for example, that Team 17 will go in and repair things and fix things and issues over time, that it might just take a little bit longer. Sure, are they really keeping up to their promise with polish over content? No, not necessarily. But if they get fixed eventually, it's not the end of the world. But let me know what you think. Do you think Hell Let Loose is still going in the right direction, or have they kind of gone back to their old ways of just focusing on content releases rather than actually making it good for what the player base is that they've already got? Because it seems like a lot of their traction is trying to attract new players rather than just stabilize their core systems. But let me know down in the comments below. Yet please subscribe for more updates on Hell Let Loose and similar types of games. Yet until then, I will see you in the next one.